Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking on this topic.
Thank you for advising me.
You're welcome. I have a couple of questions for
Sure.
you. The first is, I better set my timer, sorry.
No.
Not a great multitasker. Okay, so the first question I have for you is really what first drew your attention to this topic? What made you choose this for your thesis?
Sure. So, in a more broad spectrum, growing up, I was kind of naive towards modesty and how we should dress, and I was kind of told just wear longer shorts, maybe shoulders were not supposed to be exposed. But so that kind of led me like why? And then actually this summer I was driving home from youth group with a friend, and I was talking about, and it was a question night, and I was just like, why can't they talk this about modesty and this, and they can't say this, and this? And she said, well, why don't you do that for your thesis? And I was like, okay. So taking it on was a lot of, I think, responsibility, and I think because, like I said, it's a hot topic and a lot of people want to talk about it, it was extremely controversial, but I'm really glad that I did it.
Very good. Very good. What was hard about seeing this through? I mean, I imagine as you start a thesis, you have an idea of where it's going to land,
Totally.
and it's usually in a different landing spot at the end. So what was hard about you persevering and seeing this topic through?
Realizing that not everyone agrees with me. That was, I mean, I already knew that, but I didn't know all of the pushback, and I didn't know that other religious practices were so different than what, I'm used to. So, just really doing that research, but when you hit like a piece of evidence or an article that matches exactly what you wanted to say, it's a really good relief. So,
very good. What kind of pushback have you gotten from your friends?
I know that not everyone agrees with me, and it's like, okay, I mean, I've done my part, right? But some people think that they should still be able to wear whatever they want, and it shouldn't influence the way someone looks at them or the way that someone treats them. And so I think writing this and seeing it through for this whole year has kind of been really eye-opening for me, but maybe not them. And so I kind of understand where they're coming from, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Very good. So if we see someone and we think they might be dressing immodestly, how would you recommend we speak to them about that?
Yeah, so that is something that I've struggled with all year writing this. So I started working in a restaurant, so I stand behind the counter and I have dozens, hundreds of people coming in and leaving. So I've met a lot of different people, but I always think when I'm standing there, what if someone was like, especially Miss Wilkes, I'm like, what if Miss Wilkes was standing on my shoulder right now, like, you think she's modest? You think she's modest? And so I'm always convicted of that. But I think that we can't be too quick to judge, but I understand that there are some things that are blatantly immodest. So how I would address a friend about that is, in the Bible it says that if we do really love our friends, then we don't lie to them and we just tell them the truth. And so I think it may be challenging, but I think that we do need to take on that responsibility because if we love others like Jesus loves us, then we'll call them out on their mistakes and say, I know you maybe don't think that it's inviting or provocative, but do it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey.
Rojo, do you have some questions?
Yeah. Thank you again. I agree. This is a topic. I've got 7 daughters, and so I really appreciate what you had to say.
Thank you.
I have a daughter in her mid-30s, late 30s, and
Okay.
a daughter 9 years old.
Okay.
And so there's an evolution in Christianity along this subject. The way, and I share this, the way I hopefully taught my daughter 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, it's changed.
Yeah.
The world has changed. And I guess I'm looking at you thinking, what's it going to be like when you have your daughters? Okay?
Yep.
So when we talk about teaching the dignity and instilling the dignity, what are your thoughts about you as a parent? What would you do knowing, because right now I can tell you, my daughter raises her children differently than I raised mine.
For sure.
But they're still, the hearts are good,
Yeah.
but it's just different.
Okay. Well, I think that we're really blessed to be in a Christian environment. So if we want to take it from the biblical standpoint, we can say, okay, honey, I don't know what I'm going to call my daughter. Okay, society might change from when your grandpa taught me. Social media, there's a lot more of that. Pictures, images, friends, society, left, right, all of that may change, but we're really blessed that our God is constant. So that's why I took a lot from the Bible, and I didn't just put it one at the beginning and maybe at the end, but I wanted to add that throughout because our God is the same yesterday, today, and the same. So I think that he has the same rules or anything for us through that. So I think teaching that, we can just teach that your peers might change, but God is not going to. And the rise of social media, all of that have been linked with a rise of depression, anxiety, and stuff. So not only encourage them to do good, but encourage them that there are things linked with bad that we want you to stay out of.
Yeah. Well said, well said. To continue with that kind of, you gave kind of a developmental timeline or issues that you're going to bring together.
Sure.
Between each of those issues, you had a nice little arrow there. I would call it a bridge from one to the next to the next. Which one of those did you feel was the most difficult to kind of take your logic from one step to the next step as you did your research?
Sure. Are you referring to in my thesis, in
Yes.
that research? Okay, yeah. So I actually got that pathway. I kind of developed that by watching a video. It was the Ben Shapiro video. He said, we can't just discuss rape culture and say, okay, sex is just whatever, because I think that if we have a modest culture, then we can then teach I'll say young individuals, that sex from a Christian standpoint is between a man and a woman in marriage. So if we revalue that, then we can talk about rape culture and objectification, because if we know that sex is just between those two people, then we, first of all, shouldn't dress modestly in a scantily manner, saying that my body is sexual for everyone, but my body is sexual only for my husband. So if we have that, then a man or a woman should not see I'll use a man should not see a woman as a sex object, like we define sexual objectification. So that's how I came up with that. So the dignity was already linked to the modesty, and I was like, okay, well, we need modesty for et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good. You about 15 seconds.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, go ahead, Mrs. Firth.
Great job.
Thank you.
In your thesis write-up, you said, while honor may sometimes be an inner quality, the value of a person in his or her own eyes, it depends ultimately on recognition from significant others in society. Can you tell me who those significant others are?
Sure. So from a modern youth standpoint, I think that a lot of times kids, or a lot of people actually, get their validation from likes or comments or interactions on social media when we, from anyone, from people at school, cousins, anything. But I think that those significant others in society, they should be your parents, they should be your grandparents, they should be teachers who agree with your values. So as a Christian, if someone, an atheist, for example, if they were contradicting my view, I would say, okay, sure, but it's not my view as well. So I think that significant others who have similar values to you would count as significant others.
Very good. Let's see.
You wrote the whole thesis.
You would talk about a woman's self-worth,
Sure.
and there were two categories, her upbringing and society. Do you think it's possible that, that say you and your beautiful family, your parents have taught you what modesty is and you're living that, but then you move away and you go to college and you're in this very different environment that is, do you think it's possible to continue where that little microcosm can still continue on past your family?
Sure. So the statistic, sadly, is that 8 out of 10 Christians in high school, when they go to college, walk away from the Lord. So only 20% of Christians stay Christians when they go to college. So I think that is a really sad statistic. But is it possible? Completely. I think that that's why we need to really root it on the inside, because if you know how worthy you are and how dignified in Christ you are, then you shouldn't have a desire to portray your body negatively. So I think that if you keep those standpoints rooted in you, and especially like you talked about the significant others, so if your significant others are constantly affirming your beliefs, then of course it's going to be hard, but yeah.
How do we tackle the young people that are not rooted in modesty, or how is it that maybe, or perhaps they have role models that are not modest or do not follow the thinking of modesty or Christ's ways? Is there hope for them? How can we project goodness for them?
Sure.
And safety, basically.
Sure. So in the verse that I read, 1 Timothy 2, the end of verse 10, he says, profess godliness with good works. And that's why I don't think that modesty is just your clothing, but it's also the way you act. Mm-hmm. So if you act in a modest manner, then other people will recognize that and will definitely see that in you. So I think that as Christians, we're a witness, so we do have that responsibility to act as Christians. So if you're not acting that way, then why would other people do it? So first, I would say be modest as yourself. And second of all, educate, I'm assuming you mean young girls maybe, educate them on what actually does happen in the rape statistics, objectification statistics. And I say, well, you're looking for value in these people, musical stars, singers, but they don't believe what they tell you that they believe. So if they believe that women are valued, then why are they on stage with backup dancers in slinky outfits? They're objectifying them, and they don't think they're worthy. So why would we listen to those people if they don't even listen to themselves? Mm-hmm. That's how I would address that.
Very good.
So I was just kind of going to throw out my 2 cents. What is your opinion on, I don't know how familiar you are with what recently happened at Cornell University, where a student decided to strip down because her professor didn't like what she was wearing. Do you believe that was a stunt, or do you believe that her experience and upbringing were skewed in some way, or?
Sure. So I'm coincidental that you brought that up, but I was doing a rehearsal and a teacher brought that up. She's like, oh, did you hear what happened at Cornell? But no, I thought that was God speaking. So what I think, for the audience, she didn't take what her professor said lightly about something about her outfit. So in her next presentation, she stripped to her undergarments and presented something. But I can guarantee that not a single person left that presentation, speech, anything, knowing what she said. And it is sexualization, but not only is that, but it is just the respect for people. So we can't dress in a way that's very inviting and not expect to invite opinions or sexualization. So I think that a lot of times girls, this is what Reisman posted. She posted a nude photo shoot, and then she said, why are you sexualizing me? And what I would say to that is I would say, the men aren't sexualizing you, you're sexualizing you. And so, that's what I think about that whole.
Very good. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
So you have about 2.5 minutes left if you'd like to ask another question.
Nope.
All right, then we have 4 minutes for the audience if you have questions. I start you right now. You can just call on them as you see them.
Okay. Don't be shy. I'm waiting, Kai. Hi.
Hi. So, do you think that in your definition of like modest, do you think that means that modest clothes need to be completely covered up?
No, yeah. So that's the thing is, I think that's a legalistic standpoint, and I understand why maybe someone would address it that way. However, it's very misguiding when we say that, because a woman, like I said, can be dressed head to toe like I think I am. But I can still act in a very inviting manner, very provocative manner, very provoking manner, post things in sexual positions, anything. So just dressing a certain way doesn't mean you're modest.
So they kind of addressed the question of changing over time.
Okay.
But one of the questions that I would have is, modesty is defined differently across different societies.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, what's defined as modesty here, and for a Christian in the United States versus modesty for a Christian in even the Middle East or Russia or wherever you're at, can be different. So how do you propose the difference in that, defining modesty across those spectrums?
Yeah, sure. So personally, I have been on mission trips where modesty is very different there. For example, you just don't wear anything above your knee, and you just don't wear tank tops. And I completely understand that. It's just how they address modesty. Other missionaries that I know have gone to Fiji where the women go topless, and what the thing with that is that they say, I can't believe you would even think about showing your knees, that's so sexual, etc., etc. So what I would say to them is that if they came to America wearing their topless clothing and they wanted to come into church, we would say, ma'am, I know that your motives are not bad, they're not in the wrong place, it's not sexual, but we need to respect the place or the event that we are attending. So for Middle East, maybe I would be careful if you are going there, because many reasons, but I think that we do need to respect the places that we do go and adjust.
So if someone was to act modestly and dress with dignity and do everything in your speech that you said, but still like unwanted attention to put on them, or like they were still like sexually assaulted or something, how would you address that, even if they did everything that you said in your speech?
Sure, so I think that happens a lot of times, and I think that's really a tragedy. However, it's just the world that we live in, because it's a very hyperactive sexually, and I do think that's really a tragedy, but I think it would be ignorant for us as Christians, for us as people, to think that we can change that. But did you ask how I would address that, or how I would think?
So you don't think that we would be able to change society views on that at all?
I think that'd be views, or how society acts.
How they act?
I think it would be ignorant of us towards reality to think that we could.
Do you think parents play any role in the fact that they allow their kids to have social media accounts at a very young age, where they have access to see other kids and how they're dressed? And kids are kids, they'll put themselves out on the beach in their bikinis, like you said, not ill-intended, but do you think that there's any responsibility in the parents while your kids are developing and don't really have a complete understanding of your consequences?
Completely. So I think that a parent should look outside. There's a lot happening. There's dangerous people, there's dangerous men, there's dangerous women, everything. So I think it would be, with all respect, very irresponsible for a parent to just say, okay, post whatever you want on social media, it's inviting, you may get hurt, you may get physically damaged, you may get psychologically damaged, but go ahead. I think that's, it can be abusive psychologically.
All right, that's it. Well done, y'all.